Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about War for the Planet of the Apes, the third Planet of the Apes film, and the close of a distinct trilogy. And this review does contain major spoilers for the film. So, my rating for this film is 2 out of 5 stars. So let's get into it. Also, I want to point out that this review is isolated to War for the Planet of the Apes. I think there's a lot to be said for Rise, Dawn, War, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War of the Planet of the Apes. But this review is specific to War of the Planet of the Apes. So the reason why, now I will tell you right now, going into this film, I was really very much hoping for a 5 out of 5, and I was very inclined to give a 5 out of 5 stars to this movie because I'm really a huge fan of this series. But I was disappointed in for one very specific reason. So there's a major flaw in this film, in my opinion, and it is the writing of the villain, the general, the man played by Woody Harrelson. Now, I want to be clear that Woody Harrelson does an excellent job of acting as the general. And the general, and so, the story very quickly is Caesar is still running a group of apes, between 500 and 1,000 apes. They're still in the Muir Woods in California. And what's happening right now, or continuing to happen, is that the plague, the simian flu, is evolving the apes, making more and more of them intelligent, and then also what's happening at the same time is just devolving humans. Okay, which was a very interesting twist. And then what's happening also is the humans are very close to extinction. There's very few of them left, but they're in distinct pockets and distinct groups. And one of the things that becomes clear in the film is that not only are they fighting, they're doing everything they can to exterminate the apes as a race of people, and then, or as a race. I don't want to say a race of people. As a distinct race, right? As a species, okay? And so they're trying to exterminate the apes, and at the same time they're fighting amongst themselves, that's a classic problem of humanity, is that, we're often at each other's throats, even when we have exactly the same objectives, right? So it was, actually there was a lot in this movie that I liked, and there are a lot of really good elements in the film, but the major flaw, which is the writing of the villain, was very bad, in my opinion. So, and not just my opinion, so I'm a big fan of Grace Randolph. She is one of the best movie reviewers on the internet today, and her comment on the villain was that he was a stereotypical zealot, and I completely agree with this. So the general, who actually they have within the first few, within the first 20 minutes of the film, he kills Caesar's wife and child, right? Which, again, that's just clearly, that's like cartoon villainy. It's just too over the top and too direct, right? And too seen too many times before, right? And I have to say, I'm really a little bit sad about War for the Planet of the Apes, because I think there was a huge opportunity here, and I think a lot of that opportunity slipped through the grasp of the filmmakers. However, I will say this: the things in the film may not upset a lot of other people. I was disappointed, and it was personally disappointing to me because of how the villain was portrayed. So I felt in the movie the villain is portrayed as being pro the following things, and then also evil. So he was portrayed as being pro-American and pro-Christianity, and then in addition to that, he was drunk, and he was cruel. He was incredibly cruel. So, so it was kind of Hollywood saying, pro-American and if you're pro-Christianity, that's a facade, and the reality of your nature is that you're a deep sinner, and you're a hypocrite, right? Which that I think many people think that today, that Christians are hypocrites, and that's a deep subject, and this is a Hollywood film, and I went to see this knowing this was a Hollywood film, so it's not fair for me to ask something from a Hollywood film that I know is generally not going to be in a Hollywood film. So I get that, right? But so it wasn't that I'm saying, oh, this was terrible, they shouldn't have done this, because this is a Hollywood film. They had the right to make the film they wanted to make. It's just me hoping that they would transcend tropes. Now, one of the things that's really interesting is I feel like the tropes of the villain in this movie, the general, were not tropes of the genre. The genre is science fiction. The genre is action, right? The genre is thriller. But the tropes that, unfortunately, the villain is marinated in are not tropes of any of those genres. They're tropes of Hollywood, right? They're tropes of the Hollywood writer, right? And so that, and that is disappointing, because one of the things that is interesting is Hollywood is incredibly aware of tropes, right? But they also can't seem to escape them, right? And that's a classic problem. Like, everybody wants to make a blockbuster, everybody wants to make a movie that makes a lot of money, and tropes are easily accessible. Tropes are they appeal to a wide group, and so all that is there. So I was deeply disappointed by the villain of the film and how the villain was written, not how he was acted, but how he was written. And it was so disappointing to me that I couldn't genuinely suggest people going to see this film personally, because I feel like it was just the villain was too cartoonish, and it was just a collection of Hollywood tropes. Not even tropes from within the genre the film exists, but tropes of Hollywood, which is really disappointing to me, right? And okay, so I've gotten out of the way what I didn't like, and those are the things I didn't like about this film. All right. So what did I like? Right now, there were definitely some things that I liked in this. Andy Serkis' performance as Caesar was fantastic, as always. He did a really good job, and he has done a fantastic job finishing this entire trilogy. One of the things that, and so the other thing is, I really absolutely thought it was fascinating, the portrayal of the community of apes. So the community of apes is really fascinating in that this community of apes, they actually have 3 levels of language. So Caesar is able to fully talk like a human being, okay? And not just a few words, he can talk, right? And then there's multiple apes who can sign, who can speak sign language. And then there are also, apes that can only speak as apes, like kind of grunting and hooting, and so, and this was, and language is one of the most interesting aspects of humanity, and this movie, more than any other film I've ever seen, really just, very much explores the effect language has on our lives and on our environment, and what language means, right? And there were parts of the film that were absolutely brilliant. Another thing I really liked about this movie was it had Steve Zahn is an actor, one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. I'm a huge fan of Steve Zahn. He's a very funny actor, but he's also a very talented actor, and he has the ability to do both comedy and drama. And I think in this movie he was really doing both comedy and drama. And it was really exceptional. He did such a great job in this film. And so you have Steve Zahn in here, and he did a great job of portraying this character called Bad Ape, which did bring a lot of comedy relief to the film. And I thought that was very well done. When you have a dark piece with a lot of sadness in it, it's good to be able to punch it up with some comedy in different areas. And so I thought that was excellent. It was really, really unique. I also, I really liked the apes themselves continuing, a theme that was in Rise and Dawn was the idea of the apes and the apes saying, what is the difference between humanity? What is the difference between an ape and a human? And I think, when I looked at the film, I saw 4 distinct things that you need to think about from the perspective of the differences between apes and humans. And I think, and so one of the things was war. Okay. Now in this film, in this film, War for the Planet of the Apes, you have to think about war from the perspective of humanity and this perspective of also apes, right? And I think the way they showed it was that humans absolutely cannot escape war. It is absolutely part of their base nature, which I think is actually true. I think war is part of our base nature, and we have to, and that's the entire point of society, is to constantly be pushing down our own proclivities toward war, right? And so we need to put up structures. We need to be incredibly self-aware as a society, and we need to make sure that we have stopgaps to stop us from doing war. This film really said that the apes had escaped from that, and that and at every single turn, the apes only pursued war to survive, right? And so this was a part of the film that I think at this point in the movie War for the Planet of the Apes, I think is a little overdone in that while we as humans struggle with war, the apes don't. And they never really gave a reason for that, right? Although I think you could talk at length about that one particular subject. The other thing is family. So, and this is something that is the same between apes and humans. We all have family, and we all care incredibly deeply for that family, and I think that that was really an interesting aspect of the film. And the bonds between family, and the fact that the bonds between family really are strong, whether it be within human society or ape society, is really interesting. The next one is speech, right? And actually, I can't even begin to unpack the depths of complexity and nuance and actually philosophy that is contained within this movie over speech. But except to say that it is very thoroughly explored, and I think that exploration is really exciting, and it was very, very well done, and it makes the ape films and also War very special. And I really like how much these movies talk about language and how they raise that subject and where all of that lands. The next one was clothing. They don't really talk about this in the film, and it just came forward to me that one of the key differences between the apes and humans is clothing, right? And I think we're going to see that. Well, so is clothing, and again, I could talk at a major length. I think you could write a dissertation on this topic on why humans wear clothing, why the apes chose not to wear clothing. But the fact that we're talking about war and family and speech and clothing, right? The reason we're here and the reason we land on these meta topics is because at the end of the day, war is a piece of art. It is truly a piece of art, and it is an excellent film that really makes you think about the base nature of humanity. Think about the nature of attributes that we have. It's really an excellent, it really digs into some excellent topics. So I think, kind of spinning down, that is my review for the movie War for the Planet of the Apes. And I really wish they had chosen to write the villain in a way that was fresh and new and matched some of the ingenuity and the innovation that was seen in some of the other films. And I will also say, this review is very personal in that, I feel I'm very pro-American and I'm very pro-Christianity. And I do want to be clear, I don't conflate those things. They are absolutely not the same thing. So being pro-Christian and being pro-American really are not the same things. They are very distinct, and I think it's important that people do not conflate those two things. And I certainly don't conflate those two things. It's because I believe you can be very pro-Christian and not pro-American. I think you can be very pro-American and not pro-Christian. I think it's ideal to be both. I think at the end of the day, one of the reasons why I was so disappointed in this film was it just was a real kick in the teeth to me because, the things that I care about the most, I thought the movie was very clear, these things are actually associated with bad things. And that was disappointing. But it doesn't stop me from seeing the brilliance of these films. Seeing the brilliance of this specific film, War for the Planet of the Apes. Thanks for listening to my review. Take care.